This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is the Subway to Shea podcast. Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. Episode 212 from the Subway to Shea studios in my office. Make sure you're following Subway to Shea on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me at Ant Rivera 86. And make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you prefer to listen to the audio version of the podcast. But if you want to be a part of the chat, you want to be a part of the conversation, you are doing that on YouTube. You can also do it on X. I think that the comments flow through here at some point on X. So we'll be chatting it up through the next, hour, half hour to hour, or how long the show goes. You can support the Subway to Shea podcast with super chats, super stickers, and super thanks, now available on YouTube. Make sure your comments get read out there. And thank you everyone for bearing with me over the past week and a half. I haven't done a show since the trade deadline with Mike Silva talking Mets, and had to take care of some personal stuff and baseball. It was kind of last in that whole realm. And the Mets haven't been playing well since then, since the trade deadline. And I got to bring on my good friend here, Nick Durst. Come on, Nick. Negative Nick in the house. I got to bring my guy in here, co-host of the You Know I'm Right podcast. You can follow him at Nick_Durst and at YKIR podcast right there. I think I did that right. Yeah. You Know I'm Right podcast.
Got it.
Make sure you're following it. What's going on, my friend?
I'm glad to finally be back, which was under some better circumstances. I think last time we talked was December, and we've gone through like two opposite spectrums of a season so far with these Mets, and it's looking bleak right now. But we got some good news a little before we went on the air, which is that Frankie Montas, who I told you in December was an awful signing, which made no sense, is going to the bullpen. So we got our long reliever for the next year and a half, because he's signed for through next year.
Yeah, that's the big problem, is that Frankie Montas is signed for this 2 years. What was it, $37 million that they offered him? Look, this is all great and good that he's been put into the bullpen, but what happens next is more important now, because if you're just going to bring up Paul Blackburn, because he's going to have his AAA start coming up soon, then I really don't see anything of a difference. I want to see Brandon Sproat. I want to see Nolan McLean. I want to see one of those two get a spot and get a chance to come up here and give it their opportunity. What are your thoughts on the replacement for Frankie Montas? So you agree it's got to be one of those two guys, because Paul Blackburn just doesn't do it for me.
Well, Blackburn, they said, is going to start, I think, tomorrow in Syracuse or Friday. So he's out of the equation. So do they go their famous route of, we'll go with the bullpen game, a little Reed Garrett opener again, Frankie Montas for 75 pitches over 3 innings? I'm a big fan of this guy. I know you and all your viewers aren't, but did you ever think you'd see a day where you're like wishing Tyler McGill is back? Because I'm missing him. I think I'd rather have him than Montas, and he could get you some length. But I think you should go with McLean, or you should go with Sproat. My guess is they will go with Reed Garrett to start on Saturday
as an opener to somebody else.
Yep.
So they'll go the same route you think that they did. What was it, this past Saturday?
The last Montas start. Yeah.
The last Montas. Yeah. I mean, it didn't work out then.
They're just afraid to bring the kids up.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with not bringing these kids up, whether it's Sproat or McLean. Obviously, both have been pitching well in the minors. McLean has been a little bit more consistently good in the minors over Brandon Sproat, but Brandon Sproat has turned it on the last month. I think this is the right time. If you're going to do it ever, this is the proper time to do it. No more wasting time. And
I think if we're going to see one of the two of them this Saturday, it's going to be McLean. I think McLean will be the starter. I think they're going to hold Sproat down a little longer.
Yeah, and it's all due to how consistent McLean has been since he's gone up to AAA this season, that he'll get that would get the first opportunity at being a starter in this rotation. And let's be honest, the Mets are going to get to the postseason not because of one of these two kids coming up. I mean, their veterans are the ones that have to get things going. And, I want to get into this with you because the Mets have definitely been slumping here. 1-8 since the trade deadline, 7-game losing streak. I don't know about you. I know we've had some terrible losses where we're like, oh, I can't believe they lost this game. This is the worst loss of the season. This past weekend against the Milwaukee Brewers, to me, was the worst 3-game series that I've seen this season. Game 1 ends with a play at the plate. Blake Perkins throwing out Starling Marte to end the game. Then you go to Game 2. The Mets give up 4 runs in the 7th after leading the game. You got bad defense everywhere, bad fundamentals. The pitch timer violation against Ryan Helsley leading to a 2-run home run on the next pitch by William Contreras. Mets lost 7-4. And then the third game, the Mets had a 5-0 lead and blew that game, lost 7-6. And defense was bad. I mean, I think this was probably Francisco Lindor's worst overall weekend on this team, offensively, defensively. It just wasn't working for any of these guys.
Yeah, now the Marte play, I thought that was the right call to send him because I thought, what are the chances you get 3 hits in a row in that inning? And the problem is, why wasn't Tyrone Taylor pinch running? That was a little strange. You shouldn't be playing for the next inning. You just get Tyrone Taylor into a pinch run. Or this comes to the point of, I'd rather have Acuna on the roster right now because sure, he can't hit, but neither could Beatty. Acuna could play better defense. Vientos can't play any defense. So you might as well get a fast guy who could play defense as opposed to hoping that Brett Beatty, I know he had a home run over the weekend, but hoping that Brett Beatty and Vientos are going to take off. They are what they are at this point, Anthony. And then Saturday's loss was terrible. But Sunday, come on, you're paying Sherman and I all this money. He has to be able to hold a 5-run lead. Unbelievable, just ridiculous. And yeah, the bullpen blew it on Saturday, and Sunday. But these guys are tired. They're pitching 5 innings a game. So what you do in baseball is, if you're not going to have somebody go long into a game, you are hurting your chances of having an effective outcome because you're asking these relievers to have 5 perfect innings. You need to have at least get somebody to go 2 innings or something, because what are the chances you're going to have 4 or 5 relievers all having on nights at the same time or days? It's asking a whole lot from these pitchers.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, and we'll get more into the bullpen later on as the show goes on, but Ryan Helsley and Tyler Rogers, I think they've pitched in almost every game since being traded to the Mets, and that's not good. That's not a good thing. They shouldn't be pitching every game and get their arms blown out because the starters can't go deep into games. It's been a struggle all season long, and I like the way Dee put it. It's a sad state of affairs. I won't sugarcoat it. They need to get right here, and they're playing an Atlanta Braves team that has struggled all season long, that has been awful all season long, and if you can't win this series, and I would assume sweep this team, and I don't know what's next for if they lose this series. There is going to be a huge problem heading into the weekend with this New York Mets team. They cannot possibly lose to the Atlanta Braves like this, the way they've been playing. And they have to turn this around, and it has to start tonight.
It has to, but it probably won't. I think the Mets get swept this series. They lose Friday, and then McLean pitches Saturday, and they can get the win.
I ask you, who do you think is to blame for these struggles that the Mets are going through? Obviously, David Stearns has to take a little part in it. For me, it's everybody. But, a lot of people are, it's Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes. These guys aren't hitting. It's Carlos Mendoza with the moves he's making with the bullpen. David Stearns for the roster construction. Jeremy Hefner has been a little bit more on the quiet end. The pitching was good until they worn out. And then you got to look at the lineup itself. Where do you place most of this blame this season on the struggles that this team's going through? And they're still, 8 games over 500 right now?
I would place the blame currently on Carlos Mendoza because whatever he's trying to do isn't working. The messaging isn't getting out there clearly. He's not willing to push the starters far enough into games. And it's not all on him. Obviously, the players take a lot of the blame. Let's point the finger at Francisco Lindor. Let's point it at Juan Soto. Let's point it at Brandon Nimmo. I'm pointing at those three. Pete's been in a bit of a slump, but he was great in Milwaukee. What was it? The game where they intentionally walked Soto, but then Alonso got out. But in that game, Alonso drove in all the runs. So Pete's having a great year. We could talk about Pete also because I think he's a goner after this season. But I'm going to blame the big two that are getting the big money, which is Soto and Lindor. Blame them as well. And that ties into Mendoza here. I think it's time to switch up this lineup construction. Now, Marte, in my opinion, has to play every day. He was great Friday and Saturday. He's benched Sunday. I don't care if it's a lefty. I don't care if it's a righty. I don't care if he's DHing. I don't care if he's in the outfield. He has to play every day. The lineup needs to be rearranged here. I have some drastic ideas, which will never happen. But what I would say is I want to see Jeff McNeil leading off. He's swinging a great bat right now. Let's go with Marte 2. Leave Soto 3. Pete 4. And let's drop Lindor to 5. Lindor's feeling all the pressure right now to get on base. Let's drop him into a space where he should be batting with some runners on base. Maybe he runs into a sac fly or whatnot. So that's what I would do with that top 5. Nimmo 6 there. And then Alvarez, let's get him back. Let's get him up to 7th. Mullins could be 8th. And then I'm going to roll with Mauricio 9th, not because he deserves to play every day, but because Vientos is so bad offensively and defensively. And Mauricio is a better third baseman than Beatty. So I'll go with the defense there. Let's see. That's what I would do. Not going to happen. Lindor, the worst we're going to see from Lindor is he's going to bat 3rd, which is he's in a major slump. And the problem is with this team, Anthony, is when Lindor goes, the Mets go. When he doesn't go, they don't go. So that's it. Get Marte in there every day and get him. I want him batting 1st or 2nd, and I want McNeil at the top of the order now too. Those two, along with Alonso, are really the only offense at this point.
It's crazy to think that because at the beginning of the season, it was like, when are they going to release Starling Marte? When are they going to trade Jeff McNeil? And now
I always came on your show last year. Why do people want to trade Jeff McNeil? Why do we want to trade Marte? Makes no sense. You never get rid of somebody at their lowest point. Marte actually had a really good postseason. McNeil had a good second half. And look at the batting averages, Anthony. Those are the top 2 batting averages other than Pete on the team.
Do you place any of the blame on these hitting coaches for what has happened this season and, some of last season as well? Is it the philosophy of Eric Chavez that you see being a problem? We got 2 hitting coaches. Why do we have 2 hitting coaches? I don't see the Mets firing any of these guys. Look at what happened in 2021 when they fired Chili Davis. Absolutely nothing. Nothing changed. Actually, the offense got even worse under, I think it was like Hugh Quattlebaum.
Diesel Donnie.
Yeah, Diesel Donnie. Yeah. So I don't see them getting rid of Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes, at least for now. But would you replace them at the end of the season?
With the hitting coaches, to a degree, you could blame them for our, Tyrone Taylor sucking and, Vientos not. But, that should go to the GM. Okay, you really thought that we can get through a season. I understand Jose Siri got hurt, but he wasn't a great hitter anyway. So you had so just that's something there with the hitting coaches. But as far as the main guys to blame, I mentioned right now, Lindor, Soto, Nimmo. There's not much that Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor are going to do on a daily basis with Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes. It's going to make a difference on their game. So for me, it's I don't think firing the hitting coach necessarily right now is going to give them any spark whatsoever.
Well, let's look at what Steve Cohen has termed as the Fab Four. Over the last 30 games, Francisco Lindor is batting 169, 2 homers, 10 RBIs, 28 strikeouts, and an OPS of 510. Pete Alonso batting 190, 5 homers, 16 RBIs, 19 strikeouts, and a 639 OPS. Juan Soto's batting 203, 5 homers, 11 RBIs, 20 strikeouts, and a 741 OPS. And Brandon Nimmo's batting 205, 1 homer, 10 RBIs, 32 strikeouts, and a 618 OPS. These are what is supposed to be your, this is the group right here. These are the group that's supposed to be leading this team. And
my guess is Nimmo's hurt. I think he's hurt. He's playing hurt.
I mean, are they like Francisco Lindor was hurt? I mean, he broke his toe.
That's probably impacting. Why don't they sit these guys down for Thursday?
Well, that's the thing too. Like at the end of the season, I don't want to hear this guy was playing with this injury and he didn't want to come out of the game. I mean, like it's costing this team games right now if they're not playing.
Yeah.
It's
hurt. Sit them down, let them get better, and in the long haul, maybe that helps.
I hope they figure this out. I hope they kind of
switch up the lineup with his broken toe.
Look, Jeff Cohen saying Lindor broke his pinky toe on June 4th after a hit by pitch. Through that game, Lindor was hitting 279 with an 843 OPS and 14 homers. Since then, he's batting 202, 613 OPS, and 7 home runs. I don't know if that is the prevalent reason why he's being affected, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's part of the reason why this is happening. But everyone's slumping on this team. And when I look at these kids on this team here, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, Ronnie Mauricio, Francisco Alvarez, David Stearns really bet on all of them being a part of the line. Remember in 2022, why didn't they bring up the kids? Bring up the kids. They should be playing or trade them, right? And then that never happened. 2023, we got a little taste of everybody. 2024, Beatty's still struggling. Vientos has a breakout year. Mauricio's out for the season. Alvarez is hurt most of the year and is not himself. Right now, this season, those 4 batters, Beatty, Vientos, Mauricio, Alvarez, no one is hitting over 250, and no one has an OPS over 710. That is not good at all with what we were expecting from these guys. I don't know who has been the bigger disappointment here. Brett Beatty has never really taken off. Mauricio is coming back from the injury, and you get kind of spurts of him.
You get some
what
flashes
he can do.
there,
some flashes, right?
And at least with Mauricio, he plays good defense.
Yeah. Francisco Alvarez, he was the number 1 prospect in all baseball, but then he gets hit in the hand twice and takes, he has to take time on the IL for most of the season, so he can't get back to normal. And then you got Mark Vientos, who's kind of in, I guess, kind of what I would call a sophomore slump right now. So who's been the biggest disappointment for you?
It has to be Mark Vientos, because Stearns went into the season thinking Vientos is our number 4 hitter. We're going to bat Pete Alonso 5th. And Vientos has, from start to finish, been the worst player the team has had so far this season. He's got a few good spots, but his defense has been atrocious. And when your GM is banking on a player to hit 27 to 30 home runs, and you're probably gonna get like 10 to 13, that's a big issue. And I think at the end, I think the thing is, if you have 4 third basemen, you have no third baseman. So they go through this huge bottleneck with all these prospects here. If I got to go into next season and we have Vientos, Beatty, Mauricio, and Acuna on the 40-man roster, something's going wrong, because I think it's very clear that the team going forward, long term here, needs more offense. And there's only 2 positions really that they could do that, and that's center field, which is very hard to find a center fielder offensive minded, and third base, because McNeil has justified to me his contract. I think he'll be back moving forward here. And there's just no other space elsewhere unless you could get a big-time DH. I know I was on here with you in December, and I said, I want Alonso back, but they should also get Alex Bregman. And that would have worked out pretty well. So, but maybe they just need to develop some of these prospects a little better, because a lot of these prospects are great in AAA, and then for whatever reason they get to the majors and they're not performing. This has been a Mets thing for a decade now, plus, where they call up the hot prospect and like he'll play like one game, then he'll be on the bench next game, then he's gonna pinch hit, then he'll play another game. Like, you got to get these guys consistent playing time. You want to call somebody up, let them play 10 games in a row, and see. That's a good sample size. But a lot of these guys, like you saw with Acuna in the beginning of the season, he wasn't hitting because he never in his life before had he now played every day. So he's on the bench. It's very difficult to get the bats going that way.
That's why I'm shocked that David Stearns did not move a couple of these bats at the trade deadline, a couple of these infielders, which I thought that they should have done. Is that, and Jeff Cohen says that they have too many players playing third base, too many players playing second base. Maybe they should have moved some of these guys at the trade deadline. We heard Mark Vientos' name out there at some point. You know, did David Stearns, did he have a good trade deadline in your eyes? I mean, I thought he had, for what they needed to fill the certain spots, I thought he did well in bringing in Helsley, Rogers, and Soto to help out the bullpen. Needing a better player out there in center field, Cedric Mullins is better than Tyrone Taylor. And the only thing that they failed to me was getting a starting pitcher.
Yeah, I think he had a good deadline, but not good enough, because to me, I thought they needed to get a big offensive bat. So whether that is like you have the DH spot, you got third base, like I thought they had to get another bat here, because the offense is really bad. I think they're ranked like 13th in the NL this season in like batting average. So they're not OPS, they're like 14th. So they're not getting on base enough. So to me, that was kind of a big issue here, where the lineup needed some length and they didn't get it. But obviously Mullins is better than Taylor. They got the relievers they needed, but they can't get to the relievers with the way
they can get to the relievers.
Yeah,
they're getting to the relievers on a daily basis. That's the problem.
Get to them like 7, 8, 9, and to set it up. That's the problem.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
The perfect starting pitcher they should have got, who they should have signed. You never let him go, was Seth Lugo. He got his extension with the Royals, but that's the type of person they needed for sure.
I thought that they should have went after Lugo, but I don't know if he wanted to come here. He wanted to stay in.
I'm sure he had no interest in coming back to the Mets after they said, "Oh, you're a reliever," and then they kicked him to the curb, let him go to free agency. He's been one of the more consistent starters over the past 3.
One of the best
now with the Royals and the Padres.
He has been one of the best starting pitchers out there over the past couple of years since leaving here. And man, it sucks sometimes when you just let these type of players go. If you're not going to give them the opportunity, they're going to find it elsewhere. And that's what happened with Seth Lugo. But I definitely think that maybe they thought that they were going to go with the kids.
Well, what they need to do, off-season wise, now I'm just going to throw some names out there. I'm not saying go get these players. This is the type of deal that they should try to do with all the surplus of these kids, right? They need to go take one of those bad contracts that are long-term for one of those great players from these teams that they don't want to pay the players long-term. First of all, we could talk about Carlos Correa. They could have had him all these years. They should have maybe traded for him, but there's two guys I look at that I think long-term they won't finish their contracts with their teams that could help a team like the Mets. Again, just because I know there's a lot of haters in the comments. They don't like negative Nick. But Steve Cohen should do what he's done in the past, use his big money, say, I'm going to take this whole contract and go with minimal prospects And how about someone like Seager from the Rangers? Wouldn't he be a big plus at third base that, they want to get out of that long-term contract? They got the World Series already. So someone like that. Tatis, he's probably not going to do his whole contract in San Diego. We know they're under dire financial issues. So again, when they get knocked out this season by the Dodgers in the NLDS or the LCS, maybe that's something. So that's the type of thinking I think that David Stearns needs to do, some outside of the box thinking to really flex the financial powers that the team has in order to get a big star here, where we know 7 years from now it's going to be terrible. But in the window's closing. We're in Lindor is getting older. Pete might not be back next year. So right now with this core, the window's closing. And I think it's really important to keep in mind that the CBA is going to be up soon. So if there might be more financial restrictions put in place on Cohen. So the window to win obviously is this year and next year. After that, it's a lot of uncertainty with the CBA.
No, you're right. That's a big issue coming forward, is that CBA, and most likely a lockout on its way, coming our way. So the Mets got to figure this out. The window is short for this core. Obviously, Juan Soto is going to be a part of it for a long time, and he's young. But there may be another core that may be coming in soon. A bunch of guys that got to AAA over the past week. That's possibly the new core that's coming up. And while these guys are getting older and older, and Francisco Lindor is getting older, Brandon Nimmo is starting to break down in the outfield. So you might see a whole lot of changes. We'll get into those guys quickly. You mentioned before about how many of these players, especially these kids from the minor leagues, have really hyped and delivered. And there hasn't been many, at least in my eyes. I think of Darryl Strawberry, Doc Gooden, David Wright, Jose Reyes, and Pete Alonso. Who else has delivered a long? You could say Jacob deGrom, but Jacob deGrom was not hyped.
I would say Matt Harvey delivered. He was highly touted
while he was healthy.
Yeah. So,
but there aren't many. That's why.
Remember all those Dom Smith lovers? I never.
Dom Smith. Some of them wanted Dom Smith over Pete Alonso.
Yeah. So that's why with me, like, me and you are on the same page here. I have no problem trading the prospects. If Jet Williams is in the Mets organization next year, there's a problem because this is their time to trade him. They're gonna get crushed for this, but nothing you can tell me makes me believe that he's going to be a superstar on the MLB. I have to see it to believe it. So give me a proven commodity, a guy that's going to go into free agency in a year or two that could alter the season next year. We got to win next season. Is Jet Williams going to be the reason why the Mets win the World Series in the next 2 years? No. So they have all these people now, make some trades. They traded Drew Gilbert, who is one of their topper prospects, just for a rental in Rogers, which was a little surprising. But hey, anyway, you can get rid of Jose Budo is a major win. So you got to do what you got to do. But I'm fine with trading most of these guys. I think the only guy that I'd probably say would be my untouchable is probably Ryan Clifford, just because of the uncertainty of Pete Alonso moving forward with the organization. He's a lefty, first base, crushes the ball, was leading AA in home runs. Now he's in AAA. So that's an interesting prospect to keep in mind. Carson Benj, right? He's the guy they drafted last year. He's flying through the system. So if you want to keep him, he's a natural center fielder. So I kind of worry. Jet Williams, they're going to say he's going to be the center fielder, but he's an infielder. So, I mean, we've seen it work before, but I just think that with all this Jet Williams hype, you better be right. Otherwise, you need to deal him while he's at the highest of his hype and help the team.
Well, I know Ibby from Till Metsu's part, he's a huge Jet Williams guy. I know he's in the chat, so he may take a little solace to those comments on Jet Williams. Let's get into the prospects because they got promoted to AAA. You mentioned a couple of them already. Carson Benj, outfielder, he's getting promoted to AAA. He's ranked number 1 in the Mets MLB pipeline rankings. He's number 20 in all of MLB. You got Jet Williams, who you just mentioned, infielder, outfielder. He's number 2, and he is also ranked number 30 in MLB. And Jonah Tong, number 4, he goes up to AAA as well. Man, look at that rotation. Jonah Tong, Brandon Sproat, and Nolan McLean. Those are the guys. Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong are the only 2 that I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to trade these 2 guys because I want to see what they got. Because they got to build pitching from within. Signing these free agents has not worked out for a lot of teams. If you could build the pitching from within and you got talents like these 2 guys right here, maybe throw Brandon Sproat in there as well. That's all well and good. You mentioned Ryan Clifford. He also is moving to AAA, and that's a reason why when I saw that, I was like, maybe Pete Alonso's not longed for being on this team after this season's over after all.
Yeah, I think it's very realistic for us to say no Pete next year. I'd be stunned if they signed David Peterson because Stearns just, unless you're Frankie Montas, he's not going to be rushing to sign pitchers. So that would hurt. So, but like you said, they got Tong, you got Sproat, you got McLean. So we could see the 3 of those guys in the rotation next year. But you got to worry. Are one of those guys going to be Blade Tidwell? You never know. You never know until they're at the show.
You just don't, and that's why, like, I'm sort of with you with not being hyped on these prospects. I'm a little hesitant because of what has happened over the last 5, 6, 7 years, right? We didn't even hear about really Jeff McNeil, and he became an everyday player for this team, won a batting title. Pete Alonso, I mentioned, he was one of the hyped players out there, and he delivered. Beatty, Vientos, Alvarez, and Alvarez was the number 1 prospect in all of baseball. Like, I get it, the injuries and stuff. I understand, but sometimes you got to think, and maybe you do got to trade some of these guys. You can't keep all of them, especially the ones that are in the infield. You're not going to be able to keep Mauricio, Beatty, Vientos, Jet Williams, who's probably going to play infield as well. You got guys lower in the minor leagues like Elian Pena, Colin Hutt. Like, you can't keep all of these guys in the infield.
Yeah,
some of these guys are going to have to go.
Let's look at let me give you some notable names that were, let's say 2022-23 offseason, the top prospects. Alvarez, he's in the team. Beatty has done nothing. Kevin Parada, he's like not even like a top 30 prospect anymore.
Yeah.
So that shows you they're not doing a good job developing. If he's your first round pick, he can't do anything. Alex Ramirez, we never hear about him anymore. I don't know what his deal is. He was
I think they let him go.
He's gone, right? Isn't he with the Pirates?
I think so.
So you got Jet Williams, Vientos, Mauricio, Tidwell, he's gone. Dominic Hamill, who I think is gone, right? Matthew Allen, just a ton of Tommy John surgeries. Budo, Mike Vassell, who is not with the team anymore, who is actually had a pretty solid year for the White Sox this year. Rule 5 draft guy, I think, right? 238 ERA. So maybe you should have kept him. But that's just some of the guys they had as top prospects over the years. And most of the time it's not going to pan out. There's just not enough spots in the majors.
Shout out to Armand in the chat. Alex Ramirez was cut. Dom Hamill's down in the minors. They brought him up for like maybe a day just to have him sit on the bench, and he got no opportunity to pitch at all. I think they brought back Brandon Waddell or something like that. I don't know. The roster construction sometimes and how they're bringing up these pitchers, you shouldn't have to do that. I know you need to have bodies to throw up there when there's injuries or you need a 27th man or stuff, but let's get to a point where we don't have to keep calling to the minor leagues to bring up a bullpen guy every so often. Can we get us some starting pitchers that are going to go 5-6 innings at least?
Yeah. And like I said, Vassell, he's had a good year with the White Sox. Another guy they lost to the Rule 5 draft that I was always very high on, was Nate Lavender. I know he had Tommy John surgery, or he has some sort of injury, but still, like, what these guys who showed flashes
on spring training,
especially Lavender, and then they're just like, we'll expose them. They can go in the Rule 5 draft. So that shows you the Mets have good players, but they don't know who the good players are. But the rest of the league does.
Yeah, that's we've now you hope that guys like the guy that we traded to Drew Gilbert, is this guy he got brought up?
Is he going to be an amazing center fielder for the Giants? Could be.
They brought him up.
So essentially, they traded Verlander for Drew Gilbert and Ryan Clifford. They turned that into a half a season of Rodgers. I don't know. I guess either they really high on bench or Gilbert just was struggling. But Gilbert was hurt last year too, just like Williams. He missed most of the year.
That's why, like you said, these prospects are a dime a dozen. They're lottery tickets, and you can only do so much. One of them that has worked out, we talked about Pete Alonso. He tied Darryl Strawberry for the most home runs in Mets franchise history, 252 on Saturday. Where does Pete Alonso rank for you as an all-time Met?
We're talking like position players, pitchers.
Sure. We'll just do, we'll just do position players.
He's the best. The best
Pete
ever.
Alonso, the best all time?
Look at the numbers. The best ever to ever wear the uniform. Now, I will say David Wright would be the best if he didn't get hurt. But Pete Alonso has all the numbers. Let's say they are able to sign him to a 4-year extension. Not only is he going to have all the numbers, it's never going to be touched again because he's going to be so far above and beyond. I mean, this is a guy that really revitalized the franchise on his rookie year, the best rookie season of all time. And this is great positive attitude, great chairperson for the team. I don't know how you could say Darryl Strawberry was a better Met when he wasn't a Met for very long and he was out of there. So for me, I would go Pete Alonso. Obviously, Mike Piazza meant a lot to you and I with our age. But you want me to give you a Mount Rushmore? You can't not have Pete Alonso on the Mount Rushmore along with Piazza and David Wright, and then I don't know where you go with the fourth guy.
I know we talked about the whole fact that Ryan Clifford coming up may be the end for Pete Alonso, but for you, do you want Pete Alonso back next season? Do you want him finishing career as a Met?
At all costs, he's got to be back. Or either have Ryan Clifford DH, or they could split first.
Play the outfield.
DH. Yeah, I don't know where he'd play with Nimmo on left and Soto on right, but
put Nimmo at DH. I mean, at some point, Nimmo's not going to be able to run out there and trot out.
They have a lot of DHs between Nimmo and Lindor and Soto and Vientos. So
Vientos is not going to be probably here for long. Lindor's going to play shortstop.
Prospect, Anthony, because he's a lefty and he's a power hitter. And anytime you hear power hitting prospect, that's exciting because Beatty was never a power hitting prospect, so It's like something different. But yeah, I don't think that unless the market is completely falls apart again, I can't see Pete Alonso signing a long-term deal with the Mets. Now, I could see him signing another 1-year deal with an option again if he has to. I just don't think it's the way Stearns operates. I think he'll be more than comfortable going into next year with Mark Vientos at first base. I think he'd be okay with that. Or he'd sign, some other guy to a 1-year deal and do a platoon. He's not going to – Pete Alonso, he's having a good year. He's going to want at least a 4-year deal, 150 or something. So, Stearns will probably say, you want to run it back? We'll do a, 1 year, $30 million with the player option for $30 million again.
Jeff Cohen in the chat, how much would it take to sign Alonso? You think 30 million, 35 million a year?
How many
more
years?
After the season?
Many years? That's the problem. That's like I asked Jeff that first. Is he gonna would he take 2 2 years for 35 million each, 70 million. If he has to, probably. But maybe he's going to prefer 4 years, 120 at 30 million a year. So
I think he will get more short-term short-term offers than he would long-term, just like last year, unless someone's really wanting Pete Alonso as their first baseman, giving him 5 or 6 years. I just don't see it.
I could see the Reds signing him perfect for the ballpark, team on the rise, get that power in there.
They got Tito as the manager.
Yeah, they're ready to win. They probably gonna make the wild card this year. The Mets will be in the outside looking in. So that's like a perfect spot. There was some rumors about him last year going there. So, for a team like that, they got to spend pay over a little to get the big time star like that. But, Pete Alonso there, I think that's that's something he'd be interested in as far as that ballpark. I know he wants to be a Met. He needs to be a Met. 4 years, 140.
Yeah, from Jeff Cohen.
I don't think Stearns is going there.
I don't know how Stearns is going to do this offseason. A lot of work needs to be done. And I have not been impressed by his signing of Frankie Montas and how he's put together this rotation.
Everyone saw Frankie Montas.
Yeah. We were all hoping, right? You all hope that maybe he'll be like Manaev this year. Maybe he'll have a Quintana type year. And the problem is, and I like what Rosie K has to say, the length of pitchers are going. How could the Mets not have predicted this, given the fact that their reclamation projects goes in line with D saying definition of insanity is doing the same process and expecting different results. Doing it last year, great. Fine, it worked out. The expectations weren't there. Now that there's more expectations, you can't ask for lightning to strike twice. And that's what the Mets did here when it came to this rotation.
It was working early on, but Canning got hurt, McGill got hurt, Senga got hurt. Injuries happen, and they didn't have the depth.
I wanted to bring back Manaea. I preferred Jose Quintana over this Frankie Montas deal.
I could have Quintana for a 1-year deal. Quintana wants to be back. He's having a good season. And they had a run. They rushed. The first day of free agency, they're like, let's give Montas huge money. There was no market for Montas. Nobody would have signed him. You could have waited till spring training, gave him like a 1-year, $2 million deal. And then he was hurt to start the season, which is actually a blessing because the Mets played a lot better without him in the rotation.
He was hurt. Manaea was hurt. And the rotation was really good. At the beginning of the season, they had the best ERA in baseball with Clay Holmes, Senga for a while. Peterson is one of the best pitchers right now on this team, going 6-7 innings a game. Had a complete game shutout in one of the games. But you can't just rely on Peterson to do everything. Once these guys started getting hurt, McGill gets hurt, you start to run out of options. And now the Mets with Senga going 4 innings and Manaea going 4 innings. Clay Holmes is starting to get tired, as we predicted at the beginning of the season. How much were you going to run him out there? Peterson's been the only one going 6-7 innings. McGill's hurt. He really was supposed to be the 7th man in the rotation. Montas has given us pretty much nothing all season long. Am I missing anyone? Am I missing anyone from the rotation? I mean, it's just been an absolute struggle for these guys.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that Brazaban would have had so many starts this season as the opener? I think he opened the game like 3 times.
Or is the case saying it was clear that Montas wasn't going to pitch well? Why did they insist on pitching him this past weekend? I think that they were just hoping that he would turn it around, like they're doing with the Red. Like there's nothing else. There's nothing else that this team can now do. There's no more reinforcements coming. This is the group that you have here. And to put a lot of pressure on guys like Nolan McLean and also Brandon Sproat, who aren't even on the 40-man roster, as Armand saying they're going to have to remove someone to put one of these guys on the 40-man roster. you can't ask those two to be saviors of this team. And they've pitched a lot of innings as well down in the minor leagues. So it's up to the rotation that we have. It's up to Lindor and Soto and Nimmo and Alonso to take care of business offensively. And hope that these guys turn it around. I mean, we haven't seen a consistent offense all season long. And, the pitching staff is now coming back to earth and maybe getting worse.
Yeah. So, Anthony, what do you think the Mets, how many more games do you think the Mets can win this season? I think they're going to win like 13 to 16 more games, like get to 77, 78 wins. I don't see any end in sight to this current slump. Because if you think about it, they had the bad slump. They had the All-Star break. Then they won the 7 in a row, and they lost again. So overall, there's been nothing positive. They got lucky with the opponents. They won 7. I just don't see how they're gonna all of a sudden go on a nice run here to get them up to high 80s, 90s wins, which is what they're gonna need to get into the playoffs.
I think there was somewhere it said 87 wins was the median for that third place wild card. That was the average, I guess, for the third place wild card, is they could get 87 to 88 wins. The Reds would have to have a big showing, and I wouldn't doubt them with Terry Francona being their manager, seeing something happen and them making the playoffs. But I don't see the Giants having a turnaround after they sold at the deadline. I don't know, because as Rosie K is saying, the collapse kind of started in June, and they really haven't turned it around. The offense has never really gotten all on one footing, and you're expecting not only your top 4 guys to be consistent, but you're expecting at least 1 or 2 of these kids to do something, and they just really have not been there offensively.
All right, so they'd have to win 24 more games to get to that 87 mark. And that's might be asking a lot, I think. That down the stretch here with not that many games left to go.
Look, they're either going to turn this thing around or they're going to continue with this free fall. And
so they have to go 24-20 to end the season to get to 87 and 75 on the season.
I mean, it's not impossible, but from what we've seen from this team, they can go 23-21, right? Or 22-22. Like right. We just don't know how this is going to end up for this team if these guys don't get back on track. And, it starts against the Braves. If they get swept by the Braves, like you predicted, then it's going to be a long, long rest of this season. And I don't know if I want to watch as much baseball if this is going to happen for the rest of this season.
Listen, here's the thing, Anthony. They better win the series against the Braves. Otherwise, they're in trouble.
Absolutely.
The Mariners are going to come in. Mariners are going to take care of business. Then you got the Nationals, Braves again. Then you got the Phillies. You're going to play them 2 more series. That's 6 games there. You got the Marlins. They're not going to roll over and die. They're fighting now. Got to play the Tigers. Then you got to play the Reds again, the Phillies.
The rest of the season is tough.
The Rangers, the Padres. I mean, the Cubs you're playing. So these are the teams you're playing. The only games that really you should say we should definitely win would be the Braves and the Nationals, and that's only 9 of the games left.
And
everything else is not going to be easy.
And those 2 teams always play as tough. Everyone in the NL East plays as tough. So it doesn't even really matter. They just have one of the toughest schedules, but we'll see how that goes. We'll see what happens here. And if the Mets can turn this season around, we'll be here for you.
How many innings do you think the Mets starting pitching goes tonight?
I'm just asking for 5 at this point. I think 6. I asked for too much when I asked for 6 innings.
Well, we got Clay Holmes going, so I'm going to say
5.
4 innings.
I'm going to say he bounces back and gives us 5.
Now, do you think we have any chance against Carlos Carrasco tomorrow with David Peterson on the mound?
You know that Carlos Carrasco is waiting to have his moment against the Mets and bury them probably, right? And the Mets would always allow stuff like that to happen. against players that they let go. So
yeah, I could see. I could see like the Mets.
Maybe they score 5 or 6 runs like they did on Sunday, and then the pitching implodes.
I think they'll lose tonight. They'll score runs, but Holmes is not going to go deep in the game. I think tomorrow we got Peterson might go like 7-8 innings. Mets lose 2-1. I think that's kind of, and then I'm gonna hope that Senga has a strong outing on Thursday.
Yeah, he's the one that really needs to bounce back. I mean, he started the season off well.
Got hurt.
He hasn't been good since his return from the IL. Everyone agrees with you in the chat. They think that Clay Holmes is going to go 4. I'm trying to have a little bit of hope here and say he goes 5, but you know me, I have to counteract negative Nick with a little positivity in this podcast here. Look, we'll wrap it up here with Rosie K's comment.
Ryan Stanek in the 5th inning.
Oh dear goodness.
Or maybe Montas could come in the 5th.
No, maybe that's good for Ryan Stanek. He can't be put in high leverage situations right now, so maybe he's good to pitch the 5th inning here. Well, we'll wrap it up with one more comment here. Rosie K saying about the Mets finding new and inventive ways to lose the games. That's what happened all weekend. Hopefully it doesn't continue, but anyone that says there's a rock bottom, there isn't. That's not what happens with this team.
There is no
just
floor.
Keep going. There is no floor. Absolutely. Nick, man, appreciate you for joining me on Subway to Shea today. Make sure you promote what you got going on.
Yeah, no, just remember, everybody, the old saying was more money, more problems, but more Montas, more problems. You see this kind of game, that means we're going to lose the game. And everybody go check out the I'm Right podcast on YouTube. You already watched on YouTube. Go type it up top. You'll see this logo there. Some great interviews with some amazing baseball players, Mets beats reporters, athletes, reality stars, entrepreneurs, and so much more. On my Instagram, at Nick Student Stuff, Twitter, at Nick_Durst. Anthony, this was fun. We're very somber tone here, as usual when I come on, but hopefully better days ahead. And I can come on here at some point very happy and jubilant about how great the Mets are doing down the stretch.
Yeah, we gotta think of a different thing to counteract negative Nick. We'll figure this one out. We'll figure it out at some point. But thanks so much for joining us, Nick Durst. You can follow him at Nick_Durst, and you can follow I'm Right podcast as well on X. Check it out. Check out their YouTube page. A lot of great interviews on there. You can follow me on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you prefer to listen to the audio version. That'll be up later in the evening. If you want to be a part of the chat, want to be a part of the conversation, you're doing it on YouTube or on X. So make sure you're a part of the conversation there as well, and support the Subway to Shea podcast with the super chats, super stickers, and super thanks on YouTube. Would help out the podcast a lot. Appreciate you all for tuning in. For Anthony Rivera, for Nick Durst, this has been the Subway to Shea podcast. And always remember, let's go Mets.